Thunder cracks. Rain lashes the windows like bullets. Take your things. Take that baby. And get out of my house. Now. Dominic Ashford's voice sliced through the marble foyer, cold as the storm outside. Natalia stood soaked to the bone, 6 months pregnant, silk robe plastered to her swollen belly, dark hair dripping. 1 second ago she had been his wife. Now she was nothing. You're throwing me out. In this? She whispered, trembling. Get out. Because of what your mother said? Because I know the child isn't mine. The words detonated. Her knees buckled. Rain and tears mixed on her face as she turned, climbed the stairs with shaking legs, and packed one single suitcase while the man she'd loved for 12 years never looked back. She stepped into the storm alone, and the internet lost its mind when they found out what she did 15 years later. Have you ever had the person you'd die for suddenly look at you like you're already dead? When every promise, every touch, every forever turns out to be built on a lie someone whispered in the dark, how do you ever trust love again? Stick with me, because what Natalia did next didn't just rebuild her life. It shattered an empire and set millions of broken hearts on fire. Smash the like button right now if you believe real love can rise from the ashes. New here? Hit subscribe and the bell so you never miss a story that makes you feel again. Let's begin. 3 years before the rain, before the accusation, before the suitcase in the storm, there was Santorini. The sun bled gold across the caldera, turning the white walls of their villa the color of warm honey. Natalia stood barefoot on the terrace, a linen sheet barely clinging to her sun-kissed skin, the Aegean wind teasing it lower with every breath. Dominic stepped behind her, shirtless, 2 glasses of Assyrtiko chilled to perfection. He didn't speak at first. He simply pressed the cold glass into her hand, then let his palm slide across the small of her back, fingers splaying possessively over the curve where her waist met her hip. You're glowing, he murmured against her ear, lips brushing the shell. That's the sun. No, he said, voice rough with that low, dangerous edge she loved. That's you. That's us. He took the glass from her fingers, set both aside, and turned her slowly until she faced him. His eyes, those storm-gray eyes that once made her forget her own name, locked on hers. I want to remember this moment forever, he said. Then make it unforgettable. The sheet slipped. He caught her mouth in a kiss that tasted like salt and wine and promises. Hands that knew every secret inch of her lifted her, carried her inside, laid her across white linen already warm from the day. There was no rush. There never was when it was just them and the ocean. He kissed her like a man starved, slow, deliberate, worshipful, down the column of her throat, across the swell of her breasts until she arched, gasping his name like a prayer. Lower, lower still. When his mouth found her center, the world narrowed to heat and tongue, and the sound of waves crashing somewhere far below. Her fingers twisted in his hair, hips rolling to meet every perfect stroke until pleasure shattered through her so hard she cried out loud enough for the gods on Olympus to hear. He rose over her, eyes black with need. Look at me, he commanded softly. She did. And when he slid inside her, slow, deep claiming, they both exhaled like they'd been holding their breath for years. They moved together the way only people who've memorized each other can. Skin on skin, heartbeat to heartbeat. I love you, he whispered against her lips with every thrust. I love you, she answered, legs wrapped tight around him, refusing to let even an inch of space exist between them. That night they made love until the sky turned lavender, then rose, then gold again. And when the sun finally crested the volcano, Dominic pulled her close, palm resting protectively over her still flat stomach, and said the words that would haunt her for the rest of her life. One day I'm going to put a baby right here, and we'll be a family, the 3 of us against the world. She believed him. God, she believed him. But belief is a fragile thing when mothers start whispering. Soft pause, gentle music shift. How did they go from that terrace in paradise to him throwing a pregnant woman into the rain? If this part already has your heart racing and your eyes stinging, drop a heart in the comments right now and type Santorini so I know you felt it too. Every single one of you sharing this story is the reason we keep telling them. Thank you. 2 years after Santorini, the dream was still alive, but cracks had started to show. Natalia and Dominic had tried everything: clinics in Zurich, specialists in New York, needles, calendars, prayers. Each negative test carved another tiny scar on their marriage. Dominic threw himself into the company, Natalia poured her soul into curating exhibitions at the gallery she co-owned. They still made love, still said the words, but the desperation had begun to taste metallic. That spring, Dominic decided to renovate their summer estate in the Hamptons. He hired the best, Julian Voss, 35, brilliant, soft-spoken, with eyes the color of sea glass and hands that sketched dreams on paper. Dominic introduced them himself. Julian will handle everything, he told Natalia, kissing her temple. You just tell him what makes you happy. The first meeting was in the sunlit library. Julian unrolled plans across the mahogany table. Natalia leaned in close enough to smell cedar and faint citrus on his skin while he explained sightlines and light. She laughed at something he said about negative space. He smiled back, quiet and genuine. Dominic's mother, Evelyn Ashford, was visiting that week. She watched from the doorway, lips pressed into a thin, disapproving line. 3 weeks later, Evelyn asked to speak to her son alone. She laid photographs on his desk like playing cards, Natalia's hand resting lightly on Julian's forearm as he pointed at a detail. Natalia throwing her head back laughing while Julian watched her with that soft, unmistakable look men get when they're already half in love. A grainy shot from the garden, Julian's fingers brushing a strand of hair from Natalia's face while she smiled up at him. He's in the house 3 times a week when you're in Tokyo, Evelyn said, voice syrupy with concern. The staff talk, darling. They see how she lights up when he arrives. Dominic stared at the photos until the edges crumpled in his fist. That night he came home early. Natalia was in the kitchen, barefoot, humming, arranging peonies in a vase. He watched her for a long moment, the curve of her neck, the way the light caught her hair, and felt something inside him fracture. 2 months later, the miracle happened. The test was positive. Natalia ran to him, crying, laughing, trembling. He held her so tight she could barely breathe, whispering, "Finally, finally." But Evelyn's voice was already in his ear, soft and relentless. "She's glowing, isn't she?" Funny. She never glowed like this before, Julian. The doubt took root. He started checking her phone when she showered. He timed how long her meetings with the architect lasted. He noticed every new dress, every new smile, every new inch of happiness she wore like jewelry. And then one night, after too much whiskey and not enough sleep, he asked the question that burned his throat. "Is it mine?" Natalia froze in the doorway, overnight bag in hand, for a girls' trip she'd planned months ago. "What did you say?" "The baby," he repeated, voice shaking. "Is it mine, or is it his?" She laughed at first, sharp, disbelieving. Then she saw his face, and the laughter died. "Dominic, I have never, not once, not even," but the photos were already in his mind. Evelyn's voice was already louder than hers. The fight that followed was ugly. Words became weapons. Years of love curdled into accusation. And 6 months later, on a night when thunder sounded like judgment, those words became the ones that ended everything. "Take that baby and get out of my house." If you're feeling the rage bubbling up right now, if you want to reach through the screen and shake some sense into that man, type Evelyn in the comments, so I know I'm not the only one who sees pure poison when I hear that name. We're about to watch Natalia rise from the mud he left her in. And trust me, the revenge is so sweet you'll need a moment. The rain came down in sheets, angry and sideways, turning the driveway into a river of black glass. Natalia stood frozen in the doorway, one hand cradling the curve of her belly, the other clutching the handle of a single leather suitcase. Dominic's back was to her. He sat in the leather wingback by the fireplace, a crystal tumbler of scotch untouched in his hand, staring at flames that gave no warmth. She waited, for an apology, for a crack in his voice, for the man who once carried her over every threshold like she was made of light. None came. So she spoke first, soft, steady, lethal. 12 years, Dominic. 12 years of your hands on me in the dark, your mouth promising forever, your body inside mine like you couldn't live without it. And tonight you believe a jealous old woman over the wife who still wakes up reaching for you. He didn't turn. I hope one day you choke on the silence you're giving me right now. The slam of the door behind her was the loudest sound she'd ever made. The cold hit like a slap. Rain soaked the silk robe instantly, turning it heavy, clinging to every curve, every swell of the life growing inside her. She walked barefoot across the gravel because her shoes were still somewhere upstairs, beside a bed she would never sleep in again. Headlights cut through the dark. Her driver, Marco, leapt out, umbrella useless against the wind. "Mrs. Ashford." "Not anymore." She slid into the back seat, dripping, shivering, but spine straight. Take me to the city. Any hotel that still has a room. Marco met her eyes in the rearview mirror. He'd worked for them 8 years. He'd seen the way Dominic used to kiss her knuckles before every gala, the way he'd lift her onto the kitchen counter at 2 a.m. just to taste her mouth. He didn't ask questions. He just drove. At the plaza, the night concierge recognized her instantly, eyes widening at the soaked robe, the suitcase, the trembling hands. She signed the register, Natalia Moreau. No Ashford, no hyphen, just the name she was born with. Up in the suite, she stood under the shower until the water ran cold, watching 12 years circle the drain. Then she wrapped herself in the hotel robe, sat on the edge of the bed, and did the only thing that made sense. She called Simone. Simone, she said when her friend picked up, voice raw. I'm ready. A long beat of silence. Then, about damn time. Tell me where you are. I'm coming. By morning, Natalia had a plan, a lawyer, and a fire in her gut hotter than anything Dominic ever lit inside her. She didn't cry again. Not once. Music swells slow, defiant piano. She cut up every credit card with his name on it, closed every joint account, changed her phone number, and when the tabloids exploded the next week, CEO kicks pregnant wife to the curb, she didn't hide. She walked into her first obstetrician appointment alone, chin high, belly proud. She smiled for the paparazzi outside. Let them print the photos. Let the whole world watch her rise. If this part just made your chest tight and your fists clench, comment, she deserved better right now. I want to see thousands of you reminding every woman watching, your worth is not decided by the man who walks away. We're heading into the revenge era, the part where Natalia stops surviving and starts ruling. 9 weeks later, another storm rolled in, this one inside a private hospital room on the Upper East Side. Lightning flashed outside the window while Natalia gripped the bed rails, sweat-slick hair stuck to her cheeks, every breath a battle cry. No epidural, she'd told the nurse hours earlier, voice calm as steel. I've already survived the worst pain a man can give me. This one I want to feel. At 3:17 a.m., Celeste Moreau came screaming into the world, tiny fists clenched like she already knew the fight ahead. Natalia held her daughter against her bare chest, skin to skin, heart to racing heart, and whispered the first promise of many. No one will ever make you feel small. Not ever again. She posted the first photo 3 days later. No professional shoot, no filter. Just her in a hospital gown, exhausted, radiant, holding a sleeping newborn with a head full of dark curls. Caption, she and I are a family now. We don't need his name, his money, or his permission to be whole. Watch us grow. Within hours, the photo had 2 million likes. Women flooded the comments with their own stories of being discarded while pregnant, of being told they were nothing without a man. Number Moreau rising trended for 9 straight days. Simone showed up the following week with champagne, a laptop, and a grin sharp enough to cut glass. Time to build something he can never touch. They started small. A studio apartment in Tribeca, white walls, 1 desk, 1 dream. Natalia hung a single framed photo on the wall. The black and white ultrasound, from the day Dominic threw her out. Every time she doubted herself, she looked at it and remembered the rain. Moreau Atelier was born 6 weeks later. No investors, no loans. Just Natalia, Simone, and 3 fierce female architects who'd all been told at some point they didn't belong in the room. Their mission statement was 1 line long. We design homes where women never have to feel afraid to take up space. First client, a 29-year-old single mom in Brooklyn who just won custody from an abusive ex. Natalia turned a cramped 2-bedroom into a light-filled sanctuary with a secret playroom hidden behind a bookcase. The mom cried when she saw it. Then she paid double and referred every friend she had. Words spread like wildfire. By Celeste's first birthday, Natalia was booked solid. By the second, Architectural Digest came calling. By the third, she bought the entire top floor of a pre-war building on 5th Avenue and turned it into a penthouse that made every magazine cover scream, the queen who built her own castle. And the internet? They lost their minds. TikTok stitches of her walking job sites in 6-inch heels, while 8 months pregnant with client number 2. Yes, she did it again, on her own terms. Reels of her carrying Celeste on her hip, while sketching floor plans with the other hand. Threads titled, The Ex-Wife Revenge Glow-Up We All Needed. Dominic watched from afar. He saw the billboards with her face. He saw the interviews where she never once said his name, yet everyone knew exactly who she'd left in the rearview. He saw the Forbes list, 40 under 40 with Natalia at number 3, net worth already north of 9 figures. And every night he sat alone in that same cold marble house, drinking the same scotch, staring at the same fireplace where he'd once told her to leave. The irony? The summer estate he'd hired Julian to renovate? Natalia bought it at auction 2 years later, gutted it, and turned it into the flagship Moreau Atelier women's residence, a live-work space for single mothers launching businesses. She hosted the opening gala on the exact anniversary of the night he threw her out. Cameras flashed. Champagne flowed. Celeste, now 4, wore a tiny black dress and held her mother's hand like royalty. Natalia raised a glass to 300 guests and said, loud enough for the live stream to catch every word, "To every woman who was told her story ends when a man closes the door. Watch me build an entire world on the other side." The internet exploded again. Number Reign to Empire stayed trending for weeks. If you're screaming, "Yas Queen" at your phone right now, comment the crown emoji so we can flood this comment section with power. One final part left. The night 15 years later when he tried to crawl back, and she ended him with 4 words. 15 years later. The Temple of Dindur. Metropolitan Museum of Art. Crystal chandeliers, champagne flutes catching light like diamonds, every power player in New York dressed in black tie and awe. Natalia Moreau stepped onto the stage in a column of liquid black silk that hugged every curve she'd earned through 2 pregnancies, 1,000 sleepless nights, and 1 unbreakable spine. At 42, she looked like vengeance made flesh. Celeste, 15 now, tall and fearless, the spitting image of her mother, stood beside her in emerald silk, clutching the visionary award they were about to receive together. The applause was thunder. Natalia smiled, calm and radiant, and began her speech. Strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you forge when the person who swore to protect you leaves you bleeding in the rain. Tonight is for every woman who turned a closed door into an empire. The room rose to its feet. In the shadowed last row, one man stayed seated. Dominic Ashford looked like a ghost of himself. Cheekbones sharp, eyes sunken, the once tailored tux hanging loose on a frame that had forgotten how to eat, how to sleep, how to live without her. He had watched her rise from afar for 15 years. Watched Celeste grow up in photographs he was never allowed to touch. Watched the company he inherited crumble while hers soared. Watched the world crown the woman he threw away. He had come tonight hoping for one moment, one glance, one crack in the wall she'd built. The crowd finally sat. Celeste took the mic. My mother taught me that real love doesn't control. It trusts. And when it breaks that trust, it doesn't get to come back just because it's lonely. A ripple of knowing laughter. Dominic stood. He couldn't stop himself. He walked the long aisle between the tables, like a man walking to his own execution. Security saw him, hesitated. Everyone knew the history, but Natalia lifted one hand. Let him come. He stopped 10 feet from the stage, voice cracked and raw. Natalia. The room went dead silent. She looked down at him, cool, untouchable, magnificent. He dropped to one knee. Not romantic. Broken. I was wrong, he rasped, loud enough for every microphone to catch. I believed lies. I destroyed us. I see it every day. Please. I just want to know her. I just want... Natalia stepped to the edge of the stage, gown pooling like spilled ink. She looked at him for a long, merciless moment. Then she spoke. 4 words, soft enough to sound gentle, sharp enough to cut souls. You don't deserve us. She turned her back. The room detonated. Cheers, gasps, phones raised to catch the moment forever. Dominic stayed on his knee while mother and daughter walked off stage hand in hand, spotlights following them like they were the only 2 people in the world. Outside on the museum steps, paparazzi swarmed. A reporter shouted, Natalia, any comment on your ex-husband's public apology? She paused under the lights, Celeste tucked close, and smiled the smile that broke the internet one last time. Some doors, once closed, stay locked for good. The clip went viral before they reached the car. Within an hour, number You Don't Deserve Use was the #1 trending topic worldwide. Women posted their own 4-word goodbyes to men who never deserved them. The video hit 200 million views in 3 days. That night, on her penthouse balcony overlooking a city that belonged to her now, Natalia poured 2 glasses of champagne, One for her, one for the daughter who would never know what it felt like to be small. Celeste raised her glass. To never looking back. Natalia clinked it, eyes shining brighter than the skyline. To building forward. And somewhere across the city, in a house that echoed with ghosts and regret, a man finally understood the true cost of a lie whispered in the dark. He never bothered her again. If this story just set your heart on fire and healed something you didn't even know was broken, do 3 things for me right now. Drop a, if you believe some love stories end exactly the way they're supposed to. Share this with one woman who needs to hear she's already enough. Comment, she won, so we can drown the algorithm in truth. Thank you for writing this journey with me. This is Mr. Cael Stories, where broken hearts learn how to rule the world. Until the next one, keep rising.